Mr. Williams, have a seat next to your attorney. We'll be on the record in the matter of People versus Ashley Williams, FEA 11017834. Appearances, please.
Adam Pierce with the People. Jonathan Hinson on behalf of Ashley Williams.
Ms. Williams is present for sentencing subsequent to conviction by jury. The convicted counts include vehicular manslaughter, alcohol involved, and gross negligence.
You guys okay? Are you alright? You guys okay? Okay. Help's on the way, okay? Help's on the way.
Motor 3. Motor 3, I have one possible fatality and multiple injuries with passengers. Only additional units in RFD. Copy. RFD is en route.
Are you guys hurt? All right, just don't move, okay? I'm gonna have somebody help you out. You hurt?
We'll try to follow.
You can hear me talking? Okay, are you having any pain anywhere?
What's your name?
I'm just gonna go ahead and pop that door so we can get her out.
All right.
If you need the lid removed, we'll take the top off too. Immediate need? Immediate. On this side, we remove the engine. The firefighters are holding your neck. They don't want your neck to move. That's why they shoot the collar. They're holding it, keeping you in frontal alignment. Everybody out of the
go to my car over here, okay? You gotta go. You're under arrest now, okay? Don't resist. Take a seat.
Home 1, I copy 1, confirmed fatal.
So this driver
Someone said her
is now
mother's
under
on scene,
arrest.
Fred. I'm gonna try to find
Not
her.
for drunk driving.
I have an 18-year-old female non-restrained driver involved in a two-car TC with major front-end damage. Patient was unresponsive on scene. Patient has obvious bleeding to her forehead. She has also bleeding to her right and left arms and to the chest area.
She's gonna be taken to the station. She's gonna be placed under arrest.
Oh my God!
Okay?
Oh my
She's
God!
gonna be placed under arrest. Hold on. Listen, ma'am. Listen. She's gonna be taken to Rialto.
I'm on the corner, but advise that they'll be en route.
Okay, she'll be able to make a phone call, okay? Okay, try and relax. She'll be able to make a phone call.
Heart rate is 80, O2 status 98%. Everyone are on some oxygen. Put her to C-spine. She's nothing right now. There's still no pulses at this time. Consistently. Roger, do you want to try some? You good? You want to switch or you good?
I'm good.
And we're going to go ahead and intubate the patient.
Oh, okay.
I got somebody coming.
12 minutes. Still no changing, Cicely. How do you feel about calling this one? Does everybody agree? Time of death? 10:35.
No pulse.
Sorry that you got a very major injury, and I guess it's a back, head, and chest injury. And we tried everything we could, and didn't bring it back.
There were 2 deaths incurred. There were subordinate counts for subsequent victims, 4 people injured or dead total. Counsel waive arraignment for sentencing?
Yes, sir.
Any legal cause why sentence should not now be pronounced?
No, Your Honor.
Further comments?
I'd just like to bring to the court's attention that Ms. Williams realizes that what happened was a horrible tragedy, but it was an accident nonetheless. Ms. Williams had no intention of hurting anyone on that day. She was going to college to play basketball. She had a life of promise ahead of her. Indeed, Ms. Williams has suffered a tremendous amount of personal loss. And we ask the court to keep that in mind when pronouncing judgment.
Mr. Pierce, comments from the prosecution?
Your Honor, this is far from accidental. This defendant had both drugs and alcohol in her system. She decided to drive that day, not caring about anybody but herself. And as a result, she ended up in a head-on collision where she was driving the wrong way on a roadway, doing 50 miles an hour in a 25 zone, right in front of a school. She killed Aubriana Macias, not right there at the collision site, but later at a hospital. Aubriana, she had a future ahead of her. She was a cheer captain, ASB president. She left behind a sister as well as her parents. She was going to be going to Cal State San Marcos on a full ride scholarship. Ms. Williams also ended the life of Janessa Brown, a passenger who for some reason trusted Ms. Williams, and that trust ended up with her dying right there at the scene. She was going to go to college on a basketball scholarship, and she left behind her twin brother, KB. She's not going to get to go to UC San Diego. I think the only thing that we really need to be considering right now, Your Honor, is these two people who are now dead, as well as 4 people being injured. And I think, as a result of that, Your Honor, the defendant should be punished for the maximum amount of time that can be under this offense, which is 15 years in state prison. And people will submit.
Mr. Hanson, any further comment?
No, Your Honor. Thank you.
This is the court that heard the trial in the matter. I'm aware of the facts in the case. The court will make the following findings: that a motor vehicle was involved in or instrumental in the commission of the offense. We'll so notify the Department of Motor Vehicle, and they are directed to revoke any privilege to operate a motor vehicle. Whether you ever get a license back in the future, Ms. Williams, is between you and the Department of Motor Vehicle. The court also imposes a restitution fine in the amount of $8,000 under Penal Code Section 1202.4, and order that that be collected by the California Department of Rehabilitation and Corrections. The court, in looking at sentencing, I do want to give you an advisal, and that advisal is that in the future, if you were to drive under the influence of alcohol and or any drug and someone were to die, it's likely that you would be charged with the offense of second-degree murder. One of the things the prosecution would have to prove in a case like that is that you knew it was dangerous to drink and drive, and you did so anyway. And what we're telling you right now is it's dangerous to do so. I think you've learned that lesson, and it makes it that much easier to prove a life crime if you were to ever do that in the future. In returning to the sentencing in this matter, in count 1, the court is going to select the aggravated term of 10 years. The sentencing structure is 4 years, 6 years, or 10 years. I'm selecting the aggravated term. The reason for the aggravated term is that I am going to give you some concurrent time for the second count, and that concurrent time is 10 years, and that 10-year sentence is going to be enhanced by 3 one-year periods for the subordinate victims in the case, the individuals that were injured and not killed. And we're going to set your sentencing at 13 years in the California State Prison. Credit for 0 at this point. You are remanded in the care and custody of the sheriff for service of said term. Good luck to you.
One side, sit down.
Good morning, you guys. Welcome to Carter High School's 2012 Every 15-Minute program. Before we get started, my name is Officer Ron Russo. I was in charge of this event, and I learned a lot and thank you very much for you guys over here for participating. Your students over here saw a lot of stuff that's life-changing. This is a life-changing event that saves lives. So I'd like to ask you guys, or I almost demand that you show some respect. 2 of your classmates were killed yesterday in a violent car crash right up in front of the school, and their parents are here. So if you guys keep that in the back of your mind, it's a serious program with some serious consequences. Our first speaker is going to be Mrs. Foote and Miss Lindbeck.
Good morning to the senior class of 2012. Ms. Limerick and I are pleased to see you this morning on this solemn occasion. As you know, there was a very serious accident in front of Carter High School yesterday, and we are here to remember 2 of our favorite seniors from the class of 2012.
Yes, and along with that, we'd like to remind everybody about the consequences of what took place yesterday. So you think about all of your actions when you're behind the wheel or when you're in a car with someone and the dangers that could happen with distracted driving. It's not just necessarily driving while under the influence of alcohol or any controlled substances. That also includes texting. Yes, I know some of us do it all the time or on our cell phone while we're distracted. These are some of the dangers that we face. And as a consequence, Carter High School will now remember 2 of our seniors.
The last 3 years, Ms. Limerick and I have been here with you. We have gone to the funeral of 2 students from Carter High School. And it is the most difficult thing to do when you're a principal and you go to a wake and you look at a student who is no longer with us and you think about them when they were vibrant and alive. So we want to remember Ricky Marin, who died in 2009. And we also have Richard Rodriguez, who died in 2011. So at this time, we're going to turn the program over to several guest speakers who are going to share some words of wisdom with you. And we're also going to remember the 2 students that we lost in yesterday's car accident. Thank you.
Okay. At this time, we'd like to bring up the superintendent of Rialto Unified School District, Dr. Harold Seabrook, and board member Joe Martinez.
Good morning. As you look around today at your classmates, you have a great senior class. And you may not know this, but as this class moves forward toward graduation, this could possibly be the last time that many of you see each other. We have no guarantees on life. We can guarantee how we can control our own life. And that's the struggle for many people. Accidents happen, and many of those accidents may not be your fault. When you're driving now, it's not just driving for yourself. You're driving to defend yourself many times against others that are out of control. There's a thin line between love and hate. They say that. The line is even thinner between life and death. If you value life, you will know that by the way you live it. How you live every day will tell you and others how much you value life. As I came this morning, I thought of a story I'd like to share with you. One of my best friends, someone who grew up with me. I watched him as he went to college. I watched him when he first married and his children. And I saw something happen in his life that reminded me how fragile life really can be. He worked on the East Coast for a large corporation, was the first African American to be named vice president of this company. And he worked very hard. He was so into work that he had his car configured to the place where he had a keyboard. He could do work sitting in his car or whatever. He was just into this. The night that he got a call that he was being promoted, he called me and said, I got the job. I'm on my way to where I need to be. He wanted to be president of this company. And so they were having a big celebration for him that next day. People flying in from other cities who were presidents within this company just to welcome him. So while he's driving that morning, he was hit by another car. The person driving the car was intoxicated. He was killed instantly. Changed the whole life of his family. He had 2 children who happened to be my godchildren as we were close. So I ended up being with his family for in the last 12 years, watching them as they are still trying to escape all the harm that was done on that one morning when their dad or when her husband was killed. When someone is killed in an accident, it changes the life of all those people associated with it. You value it, and you never, ever get over it. You just don't. Just take a look. Look to your left or right now while you're sitting. Look at people who are next to you. Usually when you come in a room, you sit with people that you know. Do you know most of the people you're sitting near? What would it be like on the night of graduation, or the day of graduation, or the night before, we lose someone due to alcohol or drugs-related situation where we have an accident? When you see others who are drifting away from the normal way of life, talk to them. Because once it happens, when you get to this state, it's done. There's no one getting up out of there and come back and wave and say, I just playing a game on you. It's real. Life is real. And so is death. I ask you, take it serious. Don't even try it. There's no need to try it. There are enough television commercials if you want to see what happens. Everybody likes a beer, everybody likes what. Just watch them. You don't have to do that. And those very people that do that, they're selling for profit. It's a money-making thing. This is not a way to pay them. It's just not a way. God bless all of you. Great class of Carter. You should stay together and keep your life intact. I wish you well.
Good morning. My name is Joe Martinez, and I want to relay to you a story. My son, Nathan, in his senior year, 1998, it was February 28th, and he was working in Rancho Cucamonga at Sizzler, and right after work he was invited to go play pool with some friends. Right on Carnelian, just below baseline, there's an S-curve. Between Archibald and baseline and Foothill and Carnelian, he had an accident. No drugs, no alcohol involved. He was just reaching over and turning the radio. That story I got clearance from the hospital later on that there were no drugs and alcohol involved. But that evening, we got home about 10 p.m., expected him to be home. And I want to relay to you what your parents or family will feel if this ever happens to you. It doesn't have to be your choice. As Dr. Sebring had mentioned, it could even be somebody else's fault. But your family will feel the same thing with you in the hospital. We got a call from the hospital, and it happened to be county. It was a trauma care center. He had been airlifted in, and he wasn't expected to live. He basically had a truck, it rolled over, he skidded for 66 feet on the blacktop. To this day he has scars, he's still with us, but this entire side of his face was shredded. Imagine hamburger meat, and it was just raw hamburger meat, shredded bad. Again, it wasn't his fault, but it can happen. He went through 5 CAT scans that night. For about 10 years, he was still having glass come out of his skin from the glass that broke. It's nothing I wish on any of you. You were too dear to me. You were too dear to your parents in this community. But I do want you to realize that when you get a paper cut, it hurts. When you scrape your knee, it hurts. When you bleed, when you break a bone, it hurts. You are not Superman and Superwoman. You are going to get hurt when you either get to make bad decisions, drinking and driving, drugs and driving, or getting in a car with someone who is under the influence. Your odds go up of not living to the next day. I don't want to see any of you in one of these until you're older than I am. I want you to live a full life. I want you to have goals, and I want you to meet those goals. Don't let a bad decision take that away from you. So please, value the brain in your head. Think it through. You may be in a party and you may have peer pressure. Call mom and dad, call a friend and say, come get me. I need a ride home. It's just that easy to save your life. Thank you very much, and congratulations on graduating.
Thank you very much, Mr. Martinez, Dr. Sebring, Mrs. Limbrick, and Mrs. Foote. Our next speaker is our Chief of Police, Mr. Tony Farrar. Could you join me up at the podium, please, sir? Thank you. Gentlemen.
Well, I'm not that tall, so it's probably better that I'm up here so I can see you and you can see me. But good morning, and I'm glad that you're all here. I want to take a minute just to talk to you about what I'm going to call the tragedy of a bad decision. And I'm sure you all have made some bad decisions in your life, just like I have. But you know, honestly, despite all the warnings, despite all the educational programs that are out there, despite stiffer penalties for things that we do, violations of the law, and despite efforts by law enforcement, fire departments, and other public safety entities out there, people still get in their cars and they drive intoxicated or impaired. And I'm talking about alcohol, I'm talking about drugs, I'm talking about prescription medication, and I'm glad that somebody mentioned the distracted driving, the texting that a lot of you probably do. Did you know that car crashes, not accidents, car crashes, are the leading cause of death among teenagers? And did you know out of those crashes, out of those fatalities, 1 out of 3 are alcohol related? Let that sink in for a minute. You know, as I figured out, as I was kind of thinking about what I was going to talk to you about, you know, life lessons are best learned through experience. We all learn things through experience and things that we do. But unfortunately, when you're talking about alcohol or distracted driving, I don't think this is one of those lessons we want to learn through experience. This program focuses on everybody in this room. It challenges all of you to think about drinking, driving, personal safety, but most of all, the responsibility of making mature decisions. It challenges each of you to think about the impacts of those decisions, because it's not just about you, it's about all the others involved as well. But I'm going to end with a quick story, because I'm sure there's some of you out there that are kind of thinking, hey, you know what, that can't happen to me. Those kinds of things don't happen in my family. I only read about that kind of stuff in the newspaper. It doesn't touch me. It's no big deal. So let me start the story. Back in May of 2007, I was sitting at home. I live in Redlands. I was having my morning coffee like I usually do. And when you sit in my living room, right at the front, I have this big picture window. It's really large. You can kind of see all the way, halfway down the street. And while I'm sitting there having my coffee, I catch a glimpse out of the corner of my eye of a couple of soldiers walking up the sidewalk. And I can see, I'm really not paying too much attention, but I can see that they've got hats on, they've got all the medals on their chest, they're in dress blues and dress greens, and they're looking sharp. So the first thing that kind of came to my mind was, hey, I wonder what they're doing. It's just kind of odd. I wonder why they're walking down the sidewalk. The second thing that kind of ran through my mind was, hey, I'd just been emailing with my son not too long ago. He was about ready to get leave, and he was trying to figure out whether he was going to go home or go on vacation or do something else. And then the third thing I kind of thought of was, that's just, kind of odd. Is that him? Is he home already? I wasn't really sure. So let me stop and interject something before I finish the story. I thought, just like some of you in this room, those things don't happen to me. I'm immune from that. I only read about that. That happens to other people in the newspaper. So I'm thinking, just like some of you are probably thinking in the audience right now. Now let me finish the story. As I looked out the window again, I saw that those two soldiers were walking up the walkway, and now they were standing on the doorstep of my house. Okay? There was a knock at the door, and when I opened it, right then, I knew that something wasn't right. I knew that something was wrong. And what I found out was that my son was killed in Iraq. I'm not telling you this for any other reason but to say that sometimes bad things happen to good people. And if you think you're immune from any of the stuff that we've been talking about today or that you've learned over the last day or so, you're wrong. You're dead wrong. So what I really want to kind of leave you with is a plea, if you will. Please understand and think about the decisions that you make and the impacts that those decisions are going to have not only on yourself, but other people as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chief. Next speaker is our Fire Chief, Chief Matt Freitas. Thank you, sir.
Good morning. I know they had introduced me as the fire chief, and I am very pleased to be here to represent the Rialto Fire Department. But I'm really here for other reasons as well. I'm also here because, in addition to being a firefighter, I'm also a parent, and I have kids of my own that are high school age. I'm also here because I have spent my entire adult life helping people out of tragedies, much like the one that you saw through this program. And I'm also here because, believe it or not, I was once young, too, and in high school. It's a fact. It was a long time ago. But I still remember. What I remember was I was probably a lot like all of you. Intelligent, observant. I knew that bad things could happen. I understood some of the risks that were out there. But what I was missing was precisely what Chief Farrar had talked about. To me, at that age, and I think it's pretty common at that age, you don't believe it's something that happens to you. Yeah, it happens, but it happens on the news. It happens to those people on the side of the road. It doesn't really happen to me. And the reason it doesn't happen to me is because I don't want it to happen to me. I'm smarter than that. I'm a good driver. I'm an intelligent person. And I don't want those things to happen to me, and so I'm not going to worry about it. So for a good part of my life, I took a lot of risks, thinking that as long as I don't want it to happen to me, it's probably not going to. Then I came to that other part of my life when I decided I was going to spend the next 2.5 decades helping people when they got into accidents, when they needed help, and I saw a lot of them. There was days I would go to work and we would cut people out of cars, 1, 2, 3 in a row. And during that time, something happened. You start to look into the eyes of these people who have suffered these tragedies. You hold their hand. You talk to them. You hear about their families. You see the terror, and sometimes the last words that they speak are to you. And something happens, and you realize that these people did not want this to happen to them. There wasn't a one of them that got up in the morning and said, you know, this would be a really good day for me to wrap my car around a tree and make it so that I can't walk anymore. Nobody said, you know, I think I will get up today and I will ruin somebody else's life with my bad choices. And nobody got up and said, you know, I think I'll make a surprise ending to the rest of my life today. And I realized, and this is the message that I want to put out to you today, that it's not enough to just not want tragedy to happen. You have to take action. You can't just wake up and hope. It's something that you have to do. Now the good news is that it is completely within your power to make a difference in your own life. There are a lot of tragedies that could befall any of us, and many of them will come whether we like it or not, and we have almost no control. But there is a broad array of things that can happen in your life that you absolutely have the control over, and that control comes down to making a choice. You absolutely have 100% of the choice as to whether or not you pick up that phone while you're driving down the street. You have 100% of the choice within your power to decide if you're going to answer that text message or wait until you pull over. You have 100% choice, the power to make that choice, to decide that you are not going to take any substances that are going to impair your ability to do the things that you're supposed to do safely. You are all high school students. You have bright futures ahead of you. You are planning right now what you want to do for the rest of your life. You may think that your greatest power may come from a fantastic job, making a lot of money. It may be in playing sports. It may be the most powerful thing you think you will do is to go out and get a college degree. And those are all great things, and I wish the best to all of you in accomplishing that. But I'm here to tell you today that the most powerful thing that you have is that ability to make your own choices. Don't ever trade that away. And go to the next level. You need to make the right choices. If you care about the people around you, you need to make sure that they make the right choices too. You need to make sure that you have the courage to say, no, I'm not going to drive with you. No, I'm not going to let you drive. No, I'm not going to let you continue doing those behaviors that are going to get you in trouble. That is the most powerful thing that you have. My message to you today is that please use that discernment. Use that power. Guard it, protect it. Don't let anybody else influence you to go a different direction. I thank you for the opportunity to come here today. I wish you all the best in your future as seniors, and I hope you have a great day. Thank you.
When we investigate crashes, a lot of times people don't see the aftermath of the crashes. The officers, the district attorney's office has a contact that we use a lot to get the victims some help of a tragedy such as DUI, intoxicated drivers, including weed, and they're mad. Mothers Against Drunk Driving. I don't know if you had the opportunity to look at our trailer out front over here. It's pretty tragic, and it has a story to tell you for you guys. So our next speaker is Ms. Susana Pena. She's a representative from MAD.
Acknowledge I'm here. Okay. First of all, everything that happened the last day, yesterday and not today, some of you are not listening. You're saying, hey, I can't wait to go to the party, or I can't wait to do this, or to go to the beach and have friends and hang out at Joe's house and have a good time. And then some of them you're going to be drinking, some of them you're going to be smoking, and come on. What we're telling you is don't do it. This is what could happen. And this is real. This thing here. Now a lot of you are going to say, no, it's not going to happen to me. No way. I'm Macho Man. Because all of you are too busy watching TV and going over there and saying, oh, you turn on the television and there's your hero. Oh, look at him, he just drowned. Oh, too bad. And then you turn the channel again, and all of a sudden there you see your hero. And what is he doing? He's now jumping off a bridge. Up, he's jumping off a bridge. Up, too bad. And the third time you see him, oh, he's riding in a boat and he's going really fast. Oh my God, he crashed. Oh my God, it's burning. Oh my God. Oh, too bad. Well, guess what? That's not real. This is real. And just as our police chief said, he said he sees it all the time. He talks to parents, he talks to people. This is real. Okay, so why am I here? I'm here because everything that you saw yesterday, everything you see right now, it happened to me. It happened to me and my family. And actually in 17 days, it'll be 11 years. 11 years that my son was killed by a drunk driver that he was in the same car with. This guy was going over there and he was drinking vodka shooters and beer chasers. And he went over there and he also took ecstasy. When he took this ecstasy, he went over there and he took it. He was partying from 12 o'clock to about 3 in the morning. And as he's doing all of that, my son was upstairs sleeping because he was sharing a house with 3 other guys. Why was my son upstairs sleeping? Because he had to go to San Diego the next day. And this guy volunteered. He said, no, please, let me take you. Let me take you to San Diego. I want to do this. And then my son said, okay. It was an acquaintance. He didn't really know him. It was an acquaintance. But my son said, okay, but I'll tell you right now, I'm exhausted. I'm gonna sleep. And so what he did is that as soon as they picked up all the stuff and put it inside, because he was a DJ, he put all the stuff inside his car, and then from there they took off from San Diego. And as they took off to San Diego, that's when the guy starts, he looks over at my son's asleep. He goes over there and he starts driving, and as he's driving, he starts to come down from the alcohol and from the ecstasy. So what does he do? He ends up crashing into a tree. He ends up crashing into a tree, and it went just like this. But the tree was on my son's side, and the brakes don't work. The seatbelts don't work unless you step on that brake. So what we did is, can you put that CD on? So what we did is that we went over there and we put together a CD. This is real. And that's why I'm here, to tell you that everything that you see here could be real for you and your family. But this happened to us. You were going to see him in there with orange hair, and as you see him with the orange hair, he was just finished a commercial for Nike. But the scenes that you're going to see is real, and I would like to share my son with you.
This song is dedicated to the one and only late great Ricky Carrillo. Permission only.
Dearly beloved, here to celebrate a life, but like another, I can say it's alright. Crossing paths with the giants, a good vibe shot. He would give me what he had, even if he had not on top of his game, and I'm sure he would lay good word another like a roster brick. They can all perpetrate, but my kid got hits. Far and wide, blessing people he knew. Style and grace, now who's waiting for who? Let the good times roll, was never an issue. Let the good minds know, forever we miss you. We miss you.
Last night, I told my bro to let me know that everything was alright. You wanna bite? Cause this shit's hard to swallow. If I could just be dreaming and hope to wake tomorrow. So I pray to Lord, I hope you got a better place for him. I wonder if my time will come in that same situation, trying to make the best out of all this pain and strife. I know you can't justify it, trying to make it right. But right now, I'll flash back and reminisce on old times. Back in the days, how we chilled and just smoked out. But now we're left with memories and dwell on the lost ones. Double shot glasses, thinking how much we had fun. Some say that it's done, but your life has just begun. Thinking everything we've been through, cause yo, Rick, we miss you. We miss you.
Ice, only to melt when one dies, or a tear in the rain falling from your sky to the ground which denies the help of pride. And death, man, death's a call by God when you're needed in the sky. Life is just a big lie, and death a paradise in the sky. No more suffering, no more tears in your eyes. This world's cold, but heaven, man, heaven is warm. You left physically, but your name still lives on. I know you're still here in your spiritual form. Ricky, to you, we dedicated this song. We miss you.
Everyone here is telling you to do a couple of things, but the first one is pay attention. Pay attention to who you're with. Pay attention to if you're driving with someone. Don't put yourself in here. Don't put yourself in here. And the second thing is, don't drink. Don't drink. You're all under the age of 21. Don't drink. You don't need it. Life is wonderful. And you'll see, as you get older, you'll see life is so wonderful. You're going to be amazed, and you're going to say, "Thank God, I did the right thing." And the right thing is staying away from alcohol and paying attention. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pena. Thank you. I'm sorry for your loss, but we thank you for the opportunity to hear your story. Our next speaker is Mr. Steve Farrell.
Hi there. You guys have probably seen me around. I'm always on campus because I'm the guy that does the caps and gowns and rings and all that stuff. But I'm not here for that today. This was a tough one for me because we were actually victims twice of drunk drivers. When my daughter, who I'm blessed to have with us today, she's pregnant, she's due in about 5 weeks. When she was 3 years old, We had her in a babysitter. Same family, there was like 5 kids, you know, where they had a babysitter in the house. We came over and picked her up early because we had to go to a deal. About 10 minutes later, the mom and all the other kids were driving down the city street in Fullerton when a guy came out of a bar. His blood alcohol was 2.4. When he came down the hill, he crashed head on into the car. 10 minutes after he picked up our daughter, killed the babysitter, both her children, and severely injured the other kids. The 2 she was babysitting, for some reason, survived. Massive injuries, in the hospital forever. One of the first memories my children have, my youngest daughter, was to be at a funeral for their babysitter, the children. This father had 3 kids and a wife that he had been married for 8 or 9 years. In 1 second, one idiot took away 2 of his kids and his wife and left his son, who was playing Little League, came back, and he lost everything. That was our first experience. We thought, well, lightning never strikes twice. You think it can't happen again. Super Bowl Sunday. Everybody has a good time at Super Bowl Sunday, right? It's like one of the biggest national holidays now, the Super Bowl Sunday. I'm a big one. I with youth groups, and every year I ran just to kind of get all the kids and the dads and families together for a non-alcoholic Super Bowl party every year. And it was always a tradition. Well, my daughter, younger daughter, who was 12 at the time, brought her best friend, a little 12-year-old friend, named Christina, along with her. And Christina, you know, when you're 12 years old, girls, you remember your best friend, the little girl that's just tight, you know, you 2 were close. And Christina's that little girl was going to grow up and go to Africa and take care of gorillas. You know, that was her thing. She was going to be the gorilla girl, because that was her passion. She was vehement about it. Cutest little girl I've ever met in my life. Super Bowl Sunday, the party ends about, you know, I had to stick around because my wife and my daughter and her best friend were going to go over to another friend's house to see the last, you know, quarter of the game. And I stayed and cleaned up, everything was over. And then the little girl said, let's have a sleepover. Remember sleepovers? You go over to your parents' house and you grab all the goodies, you know, you get your bags and all the candy you shouldn't be eating and all that stuff, and you come driving over to the house. So I cleaned up everything and I'm driving home knowing they're going to be there. Well, I come up, I'm trying to turn into the track to my house, 2 blocks from my house. Can't get in, there's fire trucks, ambulances, police cars everywhere. And I can see a crushed car, but it certainly doesn't look like cars. We had a black SUV. So I drove around, I found a way into my track, and I went, our car's not there. And I went, you know, so I got out of my car, got back in, and drove up to the corner, and all my neighbors are there, and they grabbed me, and they say, stop, I can't go. So I just go, you know, you don't understand. My son was down in San Diego, my daughter was at work 2 blocks away, the older one. So I just ran through the police lines. Worst thing you get, when a parent or one of the members of the party run up, I just keep running through, and I walk up and I see the car, and I realize, you know, it's our family car, it's crushed, it's been thrown 45 feet, an SUV, there's no other cars around. I hear the police and the fire talking about multiple fatalities, and I'm looking, I walk up to the car window, and I can see the 12-year-old Christine. She's a beautiful, bright girl. She looks as good as anybody sitting in here today, but she's looking like this. But she's not moving. There's nothing. And I look down in the back seat. My daughter, that 12-year-old, is moving, but she's barely moving. And my wife, at that moment when I get there, they're pulling out the car, out of the front seat. And they're dragging her out of the car, but there's no neck brace on. And I remember that vividly. You know, you always see in the movies and TV, they put the neck braces and the boards and all that stuff on the car. Well, they're just pulling her out and putting her on the gurney. I don't know what's going on. I'm trying to figure out what's going on. You know, your brain doesn't function. Your brain does not function. Because I got there 3 minutes after the accident, maybe 4. So they pull her out, and she's on the gurney. And she starts going like this with the right leg. I look at the paramedics. Thank God for paramedics. I go, hey guys, what do you think? You know, your brain's working. She's wiggling her leg. They went, what? And all of a sudden, these sick paramedics come running. They jump on her. They start putting neck braces on her. They start doing everything you can imagine. Because I didn't know at the time, I found out from the fireman later, is they declared her dead 3-4 minutes before she had blood. Your oxygen level in your body is supposed to be 100. Hers was 10. She had broken everything. She was non-responsive. They declared her dead. They were just taking her on a gurney to the other hospital just to let it go. Because they were going to work and they knew the little girl was dead. And my daughter, we didn't know. And so they had a whole crew trying to work on her. And they worked on it. Who's the most severely hurt, who they think they can save. Well, all of a sudden there's all these paramedics. My daughter came from work, jumped in with her. They rushed her to a trauma center. My other daughter, who's 12, is unconscious. They got her neck braces and they're taking her to another trauma center. And we're trying to figure out how to tell Christina's parents what's going on. They're asking me how to reach her. And there was confusion because they thought Christina Rice was a police officer's daughter from Bray. But it wasn't. So they were terrified on what was going on. News crews, it was insane. And I don't know what to do. What do you do? I got 2 different trauma units. One's going to one trauma center, one's going to another. So I sent my daughter to one with people, and I got to the other. Thank God for family and friends. There were 15, 20 people at the hospital with me when I got there. There were 10 at the other hospital with my daughter. And we're communicating with my cell phone. And I said, well, what's going on? What's going on? And the doctors are coming out and they're saying, really, there's not much we can do. My wife's liver was up under her rib cage. The diaphragm was sheared in half. Ribs were broken. She was in a coma. They couldn't stop bleeding. Everything was, her heart was bruised. Both lungs were punctured. Hips and pelvis were shattered. Because these kids that hit her. My son was a senior class president in his high school. Kids from his school, this was the following September, were driving their mom's Volkswagen Jet. And they wanted to prove to each other that their mom's car wasn't a chip car. So they were on their way to steal liquor from a liquor store. They came around a blind intersection doing 85. He dropped his CDs on the floor. At the moment, right when they came around the blind intersection, T-boned right into the little girl. They didn't get hurt. They were all drunk. The most serious injury was the driver who was pissed that he wrecked his mom's car and he punched the wall and broke his hand. And a guy in the back seat broke his leg. So I'm trying to figure out what to do. And we rushed to the hospital and they tell me that my daughter has, you ever guys remember a guy named Christopher Reeves who was Superman? He had a C1 fracture, which is paralyzed for life. And they said, we don't know, but she may have a C1 vertebrae might be cracked or fractured. We know everything else is broken, ribs in her pelvis, but we think she would keep her stable. And I get to the hospital with my wife, and they said, we can't stop the bleeding. And I walk in, I see them with a red bag with stripes on the bag, and it's where they put your belongings of someone who's dead. And MAD came, and we had all these counselors, grief counselors coming up telling us, probably she's not going to make it. What do you want to do? What do you want to do? They've gone through, at this point, 12 or 13 pints of blood, couldn't stop it. And they were just trying to get her blood oxygen back up. But she was so cold and they couldn't stop the bleeding. They came in, and due to the grace of God, it's all I can imagine. Number one, if I hadn't seen her leg move, she would have been declared dead and she wouldn't have been there. Then, they were doing, for some reason, the trauma system malfunctioned in all of Orange County. And they shut down all the trauma services, saying it was full at the level 1 trauma center. And she was the only trauma patient they allowed in the whole night. At UC Irvine, when my daughter went, it was fully operational, but there was something reason that trauma center had everybody dedicated working on it. And they said, here's another freaky thing. We're part of a study with the Israeli army. We can inject her with something for hemophiliacs, which is a blood disease where people can't clot. We'll try it on and see if we're studying that the Israeli army came up with this blunt force trauma. Would you be willing to sign a release that we give your wife this? I said, well, will it save her? Will it either kill her or save her? But she's dead if we do. There's a good chance she'll be dead if we don't. And there's a small, she's only the second or third person who tried it. I said, I signed it. Grief counselors around me. At 2 in the morning, this was like 6 when everything started, they'd given her 17 pints of blood. And they finally got it to stop. They left her open. She was open from here to here. Everything wide open. They didn't sew her up for 3 days. They just stuck cotton in her. My daughter ended up breaking her skull. Arms were ripped out of her shoulders. Hips and pelvis were broken. She was like this with neck braces. and this isn't the bad stuff. That night at 2:30 in the morning, I'm sleeping on a wooden bench because there's no place for me to be. And my cell phone rang. These are the three worst things that I ever had to do. I had no idea. At 2:30 in the morning, Christina's parents called me and said, "We understood you were at the accident." I said, "Yes." "How did our daughter look in the car? What did she look like?" And I had to tell them that she was a beautiful young lady, that it was instant. She didn't look like she'd been in pain. And cried along with the dad. That was the dad. 5 minutes later, the mother and the stepfather called me. I had to tell the same story to them. 2 days later, my daughter goes up and she goes, "Dad, they put the wrong wristband on me." And she goes, I said, "What do you mean?" "If you know trauma, when you go into a trauma center, they don't want the press to find you or anything else, so they do a random generation of a name. It could be apricot duck, but it could be, and it's dough, something dough." My daughter's best friend was Christina Rice. The random generator on my daughter's thing was rice dough. And I told my daughter along, that was Christina just trying to watch out for you, for what you were going to do your whole life. Things like that. Then that day I had to tell my daughter, we had the school psychologists, neighbors, myself, we had to tell her that her best friend had died. She hated me. For days she didn't want to talk to me because I didn't tell her about her best friend. She hated me. My daughter's 12 years old, she hates her dad. But she said, "Dad, I need to go to the funeral." My God, this woman's in neck braces, casts. And so I said, okay, and my daughter and my son, and we all loaded her in a car. They let her out to go to the funeral. Took her to the funeral, and she cried for hours. And the families cried. It was, you have no idea what it's like. Think of this, and I'm not going to be rude. If I offend anybody, I'm sorry, but I'm trying not to. 4 days later, imagine girls when you were 12 years old, okay? Everybody's gone. It's me and her. My wife was in the hospital for 4.5 months. So it's me and her. And she starts bawling. I come up and I go, "Megan, we'll get through this." And I'm hugging her. She goes, "No, it's not it, Dad. You don't understand." She goes, "I have to go to the bathroom." Hold on. I'm sitting here, I'm a dad. My daughter can't move her arms, can't move her body, and I got to deal with it. And she goes, I said, "We'll get through this. We'll get through this." She goes, "It's that time of the month." You think the girl was nervous? Talk to Dad. For weeks, she came to me and said, "Dad, we are so close." I took care of her for months. Now the story gets worse. Just so you know, this was tragic. It's funny to the extent I tell, because it's so serious, but that was, my God, my dad's worst nightmare. I had to check. So, a few days later, she got better a little bit. She kept doing her thing, getting better. My wife, morphine and all the drugs, and then the trial started. The young man who was one of my son's good friends, he'd been partying at a neighbor's house, a block from our house. We went to all the trials. Mad was there supporting us. Families were there supporting us. Took 2.5 years. He then went to state prison. He gets out in another 6 months. 5.5 years in a state prison. 5.5 years. Nobody was happy. Nobody was excited. Christina's dad, when he gets out, the guy better keep his back to the wall because Christina's dad will never get over losing his baby. The trials were insane. Speaking. His family, we were all in the courtroom the day they did the sentencing. He thought with big power of attorneys he was going to get 6 months in county jail. Then the judge goes, "Your parents did everything to raise you right, but you were stupid. You were an idiot. And because of it, one person's dead. You've ruined their lives and their family. You've seriously devastated other people. And they've given all these things to get out, and all of a sudden they go, so you're getting, it was like 7 years, and he had to serve 5.5 under the new guidelines. Mother of his father are there, and he goes, marshals, take him into custody. They grabbed him in front of his parents, shackled him, hands, ankles, took off his tie, took off his belt, and stuck him in a cage in front of his whole family. That was as devastating to them, because they're neat people. I knew she was the cashier at our market, the mom was. It ruined lots of people's lives because of an idiot who had proved that his car wasn't a chick car. His blood alcohol was ridiculous. He didn't pay attention. He did every single thing wrong that you could do it. And he messed with everybody in my life. And people go, my God, what have you been through? I'm so sorry. I said, no, I'm totally blessed. I am truly, truly blessed. Because of firefighters that saved her life, both of my wife and my daughter's life, the police that investigated all the work, the doctors, through the grace of God, that they were doing a study in that one hospital, and that I happened to be there when she was pulled out of the car. Don't make anybody go through that. I know it sounds ridiculous. It won't happen to me. They're absolutely right. You don't think it can happen to me. Believe me, dude, 2 times. 2 times. I've seen 4 people die. It sucks. There's nothing good to be said for it. Think about it. You know, prom's going to go on. I mean, we're all stupid when we're 18 years old, me especially, but that doesn't make it right. You have a chance to change something. Please do it. Don't make anybody have to ask somebody you know, what did my daughter look like in the car? That sucks. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Farrell. I had the distinct opportunity to join the ASB class to the mortuary yesterday at the coroner's office in San Bernardino. It was eye-opening. I've seen more death than I want to ever see, more than I could probably handle. But when I saw what I saw, I wasn't stunned. It's just sad to say I wasn't stunned at what I saw on screen. What hit me, what was gut-wrenching, was the look on your classmate's face, the horror, what they were seeing on the screens. If you want a real taste of what is real, because we're telling stories up here, you may be thinking, well, that can't happen. I mean, it's like the Chiefs have already talked about. Talk to your classmates. They saw firsthand what alcohol and drugs can do.
At this time, I have a letter to you from Janessa Brown. It's titled, I'll Never. I suffered from blunt force trauma from going through the windshield of a car. Unfortunately, I did not make it. All medical help rushed to the scene, but by that time, I was already gone. The effect of this tragedy will last forever because I have no more life to live. I'll miss out on so much. I'll never experience the great memories of prom and what it would have bestowed upon me. I'll never experience the satisfaction of graduating. I'll never attend San Diego State University. I'll never be able to become the nurse I aspired to be. I'll never reach the many joys and successes that I had planned for my life. I'll miss my friends and all the smiles and how much joy they brought to my life. I'll miss my family, my mom, my dad, my brothers and sisters, and the tender love and care they showed me every day. I'll never see them again. I'll never get the chance to say goodbye, nor I love you. Sadly enough, I'll never get the chance again to do so. This crime took my life and made everything end, before life for me even began. But to all that know me, please don't cry or mourn, but learn from this tragedy. I love you. Be blessed.
Why should I feel discouraged? And why should the shadows come? my portion. A constant friend is he. His eye is on the sparrow, and I know he watches me. I sing because I'm happy, and I sing because I'm free. His eye is on the sparrow, and I know he watches me. I sing because I'm happy, and I sing because I'm free. Oh, his eye is on the sparrow, and I know he watches me.
At this time, I would like to bring to the stage Mr. Lance Diaz, Aubrey's brother, and he has a letter from Aubrey.
Aubriana, my sister, was funny, outgoing, loved, and most of all, respected by those closest to her. She has been an inspiration to others in her family. In her short life, she set her goals. She always accomplished what she wanted, like ASB president, cheer captain, choir, club soccer, and principal's honor roll. Some people may not know, but she also somehow found time to do community service as well as charity events. She also had the urge to help the less fortunate and the youth in our community. She was very strong-willed and determined. She never took no for an answer and always asked why. With my sister being gone, that will be one less person in the world to influence and inspire others every day their own good within their lives. She will be missed because of her bright smile, and she will always bring and together. She is an angel in the sky watching over me. Thank you.
We always hear about the lives that were lost as a result of it, but we also need to hear from the family of those who have caused the tragedy and the loss of life. And so I bring to the stage at this time Ashley's mother, and she's going to speak to you momentarily about the effects of this accident on her life.
First of all, I'd like to say that this has got to be the hardest thing that I've ever had to do, to stand before you and to talk about my daughter, Ashley, when there's so many emotions in regards to something that she was responsible for, the life of her classmate and one of her dearest friends, Vanessa. Ashley is very distraught about this. She's very sorry for what she's done. She wishes that she could start that day all over again. She has taken the life of her friend, and there's no going back. She feels like that she's not only destroyed her dreams, but she's also destroyed the dreams of her best friend. It's hard to believe. It doesn't even feel real that just weeks ago we were planning on the prom and graduation and her going off to ASU. And now all of that is It's just gone. Ashley doesn't deserve your forgiveness. She knows that. We know that. We also know that we didn't deserve Christ's forgiveness. But we can only hope that through your pain, that you will find some forgiveness for her. She's very sorry.
At this time, I'd like to bring to the stage Tashelle Lavender, classmate of all three young ladies. And she's going to read a poem entitled, Dear Mom and Dad.
Every 15 minutes, someone in the United States dies in an alcohol-related traffic collision. Today I died. I can't believe I didn't have a chance to say goodbye. I never again see the light of day. Why was I the one to pay? I wasn't drunk and I hadn't been drinking, but the guy driving wasn't thinking. My friends' sweet faces I'll never see, and now they have to say goodbye to me. My family's tender love will I never feel again. My hopes and dreams he had to steal. My life is over, I don't get another. The sad thing is, the one who killed me was my brother. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Dee Dee Feek. She's a funeral director at Green Acres in Bloomington. Thank you, Dee Dee.
Hi, I'm Dee Dee, and I've been a funeral director for near 30 years. 28 of it has been in this area, and so there's a lot of familiar faces here. When Officer Russo called and asked if I could help out with this program, there was no hesitation on my part. I've helped out with this program for about 10 years now. And it's an excellent program of awareness. And it's not really, it's intended for all of you seniors because you're getting ready to go out into the world on your own and you're not under your parents' umbrella anymore because most of you will turn 18. So the decisions you make, the consequences are going to be yours. But what I take away from this is I'm hoping that all of the adults in here are paying attention as well. Because it's easy for us to tell you as young people to not drink and drive, to not do drugs and drive, to not text and drive, okay? And when we look in the mirror, we know that we're doing the same thing. And we're just as guilty as you are. And so my message primarily is I love doing this program. It is an enactment, but it is real and it's for all of us. Thank you.
Thank you, Dee Dee. Our next speaker is our Lieutenant Kathy Thompson of the Rialto Police Department.
Good morning. I'm Kathy Thompson, Lieutenant with Rialto Police Department. I wish that every 15 minutes had existed when I was back in high school. It might have made two friends of mine make better decisions. When after a football game one night and a lot of partying, they made the wrong decision of getting in the car with each other, one at the wheel and one as a passenger, both drunk. And they crashed and they died instantly on impact. Looking back all those years, I wonder what their lives would have been like, and I wonder how our friendships would have grown. I'm honored today to close this year's Every 15-Minute program. I'm honored because I'm one of the last people that will have the opportunity to hopefully convince you to listen to what you learned today and remember the images that you've seen and hopefully make the right decisions not to drink and drive and not to get into a car with someone who's been drinking. One of the worst calls that a police officer can get assigned is what we call a death notification. And in 27 years of being a police officer here in this city, I've had to make that notification 3 times. It's a terrible feeling. I don't ever want to walk up to your front door and have to look into the loving eyes of your mom and dad and tell them that their beloved son or daughter is dead. Please don't make me do that. As you're getting ready to go to prom and to graduate, you have all of life ahead of you. All your hopes, your dreams, your plans for your future. I wish you all to have a safe prom and graduation, have fun, have a wonderful summer as you get ready to move on to college or whatever it is that you're planning to do. I'm going to ask you now, though, to close this program with a solemn vow to yourself that you will listen to what's been taught to you today or this week. Make a vow to yourself that you're simply not going to get in a car if you've been drinking, that you're not going to drive, you're not going to get in a car with someone else. The problem with that promise, a little bit, is that when you've been drinking, you're impaired, your decision making is impaired. If it means having to write it down on a piece of paper and carrying it with you in your wallet and looking at it every once in a while and reminding yourself, then do that. If you're the kind of person that remembers your promises better if you say them out loud to someone, then turn to your friend sitting next to you and say it to them. Make that promise to them. And then I'm going to ask you to go home tonight, tell your family what you've promised, and then ask them to do the same to you. Ask them to look back at you and say, I won't drink and drive. I won't get in the car with someone who's been drinking. Let's all have promises together that we won't do that. You know, my generation's as guilty as the kids today. But if we can learn from this program, then hopefully we can save some lives. And there won't be 2 empty seats at your graduation like there was at mine. Thank you for listening and paying attention.
Thank you, Kathy. That concludes our Every 15-Minute program for 2012. Thank you, high school seniors. You were outstanding, respectful. We appreciate that.